Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Women Like Me Stories in Business. I'm your host, Julie Fairhurst, and I am here with a really interesting lady. Her name is Sherry Mack. Now, let me tell you just a brief little bit about her, and then we'll dive in. So, when life pushes a woman to her knees, she either breaks or she breaks open. And Sherry Mack did the latter, and the world is better for it. She's a registered nurse with a bachelor's of science in nursing. Sherry is a powerful advocate for cannabis nursing, a recognized specialty where nurses stand on the front lines fighting for safe, informed therapeutic use of cannabis. She brings knowledge, compassion, and grounded lived experience and wisdom that you just can't manufacture. So, Sherry, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it a lot.
Julie, thank you so much for having me on. This is just a topic that is so near and dear to my heart. Cannabis is I would say, the most misunderstood plant in the whole world.
Yes.
And so I'm hopeful to help, I'm hopefully here to help destigmatize that with some storytelling. And I'm really excited for this interview. So thank you so much for having me on.
Perfect. Well, that's excellent. Okay, let's get started because you were a cannabis patient.
Yes, I was actually back in 2012. Geez, I found myself on the other side of the bed. Was a registered nurse for, I think I was in my 27th year.
Wow.
A long time working at the big teaching hospitals in Boston. And I ended up on the other side of the bed. I was in the intensive care unit. I got an infectious disease and I almost died.
Wow.
So yeah, interesting story. And so I became a patient on the other side of the bed where I had to deal with the pills, the procedures, the misdiagnoses, the delayed treatments, the delayed surgeries, the insurance, like ongoing, multiple different doctors, infectious disease team, the whole 9 yards. And I was really, really sick. I had an intestinal infection that I got working as a nurse in the hospital. Megacolon nearly wiped out my gut microbiome, developed a chronic myofascial pain syndrome, which was an autoimmune disease, had a lot of issues, was on over 18 pharmaceuticals at one point in time in my life. And that to me was very, very, very hard because I was also a holistic nurse. So I always tried to seek out ways to treat myself holistically. And I found that all of the holistic modalities that I was trying to utilize in my life wasn't working for this condition. And so I became a seeker of knowledge and diving into all of the holistic modalities. But it wasn't until a 70-year-old nurse came to my house with a basket of cannabis goodies. Knocked on my door. Oh yeah, 70 years old. And she said, "Where have you been?" And I said, "I've been sick." I said, "I have not been sick. I have not been well. And I said, "What did you bring me?" And she held up her finger and she said, "Sherry, I just want to tell you something. It is 2012. Cannabis has just become legal medically as a medicine." And she goes, "I'm hoping that in my lifetime, we'll see it become legalized adult use at some point in time." And she's a 70-year-old nurse. And so she described to me a little bit about her journey. So she had this beautiful what I call transpersonal nursing experience where she became very vulnerable. And she said to me, "Sherry, I've been using cannabis every day since the age of 17. And I said, "Wait a minute, you're 70 years old. You've been using cannabis every day since the age of 17. What does that look like? And what does that mean? And how could that be good for you?"
Yeah.
And she said, "Well, I want to tell you something else. My father was a pharmacist in Boston, and he carried cannabis formulations in his pharmacy prior to 1937. Cannabis was approved as a medicine way, way back prior to 1937. It was part of the American Medical Association, part of the pharmacopoeia. There were over 600 cannabis formulations that were available to patients prior to 1937 in various ratios that were carried by the major pharmaceutical companies."
Wow.
I didn't know that. So as a nurse, what I learned was cannabis was a drug of abuse. People were using cannabis to get altered, to get high. I never understood it or learned about it as a medicine. And so when
Ah,
her name was Marianne, and I, God bless Marianne, because Marianne truly, her being vulnerable and sharing her story with me allowed me to feel more comfortable trying it.
yeah.
And I was, on, like I said, on 18 pharmaceuticals. And for those of you that are new and understanding what polypharmacy is, if you're on 5 or more pharmaceuticals, there's a 50% chance that they're interacting. If you're on 10 or more pharmaceuticals, 100% that they're interacting and probably not in your best and highest interest. So I am
Oh,
assuming that a lot of my problems were side effects from the
yes.
polypharmacy that I was experiencing.
Yeah.
So how do I come off of those drugs and still have a quality of life? And so she introduced me to cannabis as a medicine. And she
Wow.
basically said to me, there's a topical in here, there's a tincture in here, there's a little bit joint in there, there's some gummies, there's some brownies, there's a oil that you can use. And I just basically said, how could this possibly work for me when the
Yes.
strongest pharmaceuticals known to man are doing no thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when she said, Sherry, this is where you need to learn about cannabis. And so basically, she introduced me to cannabis. I tried it, and my pain went from a 10 to a 0 within 10 minutes.
Wow.
And I had to look at that.
Yes.
So there was, and the interesting thing too, at that particular moment in time when I consumed, I thought I was going to be altered and high, and I
Yes.
wasn't. That's the part that was really puzzling to me,
Ah,
was how could I be taking this substance into my body that
yes.
makes people high and impaired and altered and
Yeah.
funny and giggly, and how could it decrease my pain and make me feel normal? And I didn't understand that. So
Hmm.
that's when
I
I
think
knew.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think that's one of the biggest fears that a lot of people have. It's like, well, I don't want to get high.
Well, yeah. Well, see that. And so that was my impetus to really understand cannabis therapy, the endocannabinoid system. And this is a system that we have in our body that's not taught in medical school, not taught in nursing school yet. They are starting to teach it in pharmacy school. My daughter is in her second year of pharmacy school, or
Wow.
first year of pharmacy school. They actually did cover it the first week in 1 or 2 classes.
Yeah.
But the endocannabinoid system is a system we have in our body that isn't taught. And it's a shame, because once I learned about this system, you can't go back. You can't
Yeah.
unlearn what you learn. And so the
Right.
endocannabinoid system is the largest neuroregulatory system in our body. It is the 12th organ system. We have 11 organ systems, our immune system, and all the neurotransmitter signaling systems that are regulated by the endocannabinoid system. We have an
Ah,
endocannabinoid system not because of the cannabis plant, but because we make molecules in our body just like the plant. I was blown away when I learned that. Didn't
that's
know that.
interesting.
Yes. So the plant makes THC. We make a molecule called anandamide. The molecular structure of the THC molecule and the anandamide molecule that we make is the exact same shape, plugs into the receptor the exact same way. The difference is the plant that makes THC is 10 times stronger than the anandamide molecule that we make upon demand. So I was like, cannabis works in our body because we have an endocannabinoid system. So if we have an endocannabinoid system and we're making molecules in our body like the plant, then well, why do we need the plant? And so that was my biggest
Yes.
question is, okay, well,
Ah,
great, great. I love it that I make molecules in my body like the plant. If I make
yeah.
molecules, then why do I need it?
Yeah.
Well, there is a thing called an endocannabinoid deficiency. So the endocannabinoid system is made up of
Ah,
enzymes that create the molecules that we make upon demand. And it's generally in a response to a need. If your body needs something, the endocannabinoid system is going on and off all day long. Think of
right.
eating, hunger hormones stimulated by
Yes.
the endocannabinoid system, sleeping,
Oh.
circadian rhythm, orchestrated by the endocannabinoid
So it's
system.
letting you know what your body's needing.
Eating, relax. So it's a
Ah.
sensing system. We have
Mm.
sensors or cannabinoid receptors
Yeah.
on all of the cell surfaces of all of our organ systems, our immune system, and at the neurotransmitter signaling junction site.
Wow.
So when we take in these phytocannabinoids from the plant, it's mimicking what our body is making or not making. If we're not making enough of our own, we may have an endocannabinoid deficiency, which is real. And this is
Ah,
where we see disease. So if you think about if you have a system, and how I like to explain it is for people to imagine their umbrella. You
okay.
are an umbrella. Just
Yes.
imagine you are the umbrella. All of the different spokes of the umbrella are your different organ systems. It shows the interconnectedness of the body. The fabric pieces that attach to the spokes of the umbrella
Yeah.
are the different neurotransmitter signaling systems like serotonin signaling, dopamine signaling,
Right.
opioid signaling, TRPV1 signaling, GABA, glutamate, hormonal signaling. All of these signaling systems are controlled by the endocannabinoid system. So when you have a deficiency, messages don't get relayed, and so things get confused. And generally, people are running hot, meaning, here's an example. The endocannabinoid system signals the fight or flight response. It also signals the relaxation response. We can't control the fight or flight response.
Yeah.
We can control the
Mm.
relaxation response with conscious awareness and practice and different tools. So the endocannabinoid system actually responds to activities besides cannabis. So there are things that we can be doing in our lives that can support and nourish the system. And this is why it's so important for clinicians and nurses to understand this.
Right.
Everything that we do or don't do in our lives, everything that we tell a patient to do or not do in their life affects this very important system. So the activities that you're doing in your life either support the system or they don't. And if they don't, you need to know why they don't and what you can do so you don't
Inter
get into further trouble,
oh, interesting.
right?
I mean, I'm not in the medical industry, but I've never heard of that.
The endocannabinoid
Never.
system.
And
Yeah,
it makes complete sense.
it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
It does make
Wow.
complete sense.
Wow.
And so the reason why, just get back to the question
Yeah.
of, over time, me processing all this, I consumed cannabis at a very vulnerable point in my life where I was on a lot of pharmaceuticals, and all of a sudden I was clear as day, like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, awake, alert, calm, cool, collect, no pain, thinking clearly. Why and how? And it's because I had such a deficiency that what I took in, the basket of
Mm,
goodies that my friend brought me, actually plugged into those receptors to start balancing things out. Right. I
wow.
wasn't, I wasn't impaired. I wasn't high. I was calm. I was cool. I was collect. I didn't have any pain. I could articulate clearly. And that's to me was the impetus that I needed to look into this more.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, her little visit to me propelled me into the space.
Yeah.
I went to the doctor to get my medical card because, again, my mother, this is a great story. My mother was not a fan of cannabis.
Ah.
When she found out that I was using it, she blocked me on Facebook. Mom, I love you to death. Wrote me out of her will. She was sending me letters for a good year. And it was really horrifying because I found something that worked, but then to
Yeah.
not have the acceptance of your family was really,
Yes.
and your own mother was really
Yeah.
hard. So I had to kind of let go of that and to continue on my journey of educating and learning about this very important,
Yeah.
misunderstood plant. And so what I learned was, like, again, it's that it's a miracle.
Yeah.
It's science.
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
combination. This is where miracles meet science. And we have
Yes.
this plant that is so misunderstood. And so when I went to the doctor and I got my medical cannabis card, I got approved right away. He goes, gosh, you've got awful lot of problems for being this young. He goes, you definitely can get your medical cannabis card. And so I said, okay, so what are the best products for me to take now? I'm ready to learn. He hands me a piece of paper with the list of
Yeah.
all these dispensaries and says, good luck, kid. I can't tell
Oh.
you how to take it.
Oh no.
So for me, I was like, I am sure that I am not the only one out there
Yes.
that needs
Yeah.
to understand cannabis as medicine. If I can make this work for me,
Mm.
and this is what I did. I
Yeah.
went to the dispensary, bought all kinds of products, sat down at a table, started looking at it, checked out all different kinds of books, started doing research, found nursing organizations. And I basically said, if I can figure this out for me and I can come off my pharmaceuticals, you can call me the green nurse. And here we are.
Oh, wow. Well, it's
Years
so
later.
so cannabis nursing is now a recognized specialty.
So
Ah,
basically, yes. So basically, in 2018, the
yeah.
Journal of Nursing Regulation put out a call to action that all nurses, nurse practitioners, advanced practice nurses, nursing students must have 6 essential areas of knowledge when it comes to cannabis as medicine.
Oh, wow.
64-page document. So at some point in time, nurses will be tested on the nursing boards. It hasn't happened yet, but this is a call to action that was put out back in 2018. So in 2023, the American Nurses Association, which represents 5 million nurses,
Wow.
recognized cannabis nursing as a specialty.
Wow.
2024, in conjunction with the American Cannabis Nurses Association and the American Nurses Association, Cannabis Nursing Scope and Standards of Practice was published. This is the who, what, when, where, and why of cannabis nursing. And so it looks at nursing, advanced practice nurses, master's prepared nurses, and registered nurses, and sets up the standards of practice of what nurses should and shouldn't be doing in the clinical space when working with patients.
Oh, wow. So how do nurses help? Like I understand they have the knowledge and they can certainly guide patients, but what can they like tell me? I come to you, I'm not well.
So
How do
basically,
yeah,
how I work with patients, and it's all, and that's the thing, cost, because it's not covered by insurance yet. We're
right.
hoping at some point in time that it will be, but there's certain HSA plans where we can write a super bill for our coaching and consulting. And so
Okay.
what happens is patients will come to us, and first of all, it's meeting patients where they're at, right? This isn't about, I know that this works, but I also know that it's a stigmatized plant, and patients come in there with preconceived notions, their
Yes.
biases, their own prejudices, their own
Yes.
stigmas. So it's really about addressing the comfort level of where someone's at in regards to plant medicine. So it's really asking, so we have an intake form, and the intake form goes over the basic, past medical history, past surgical history, pharmaceuticals, drug allergies, medications that you're on, upcoming surgeries that you're on, lifestyle, looking at lifestyle questions, really, really important to look at what you're eating, how you're sleeping, supplements that you're taking. Are you consuming alcohol? Are you taking smoking tobacco? Are you partaking in other adult drugs that maybe aren't so good for you? So it's really looking at lifestyle, looking at how people eat, how do they relax, their social life, looking at the biopsychosocial spiritual nature of a human being, and then asking them, what's important to you and how do you want to live your life? Why do you
Yeah.
want to use cannabis as a medicine? What are you looking to achieve? And then from there, what we do is we go down and we discuss the different modes of administration. What do you feel comfortable with? The most common way that people use cannabis is inhalation. And I'll tell you what, that's the most reason why people don't want to use it when they come to us. People will say, I want to use cannabis as a medicine, but I don't want to smoke and I don't want to get high. And I go, guess what? You don't have to smoke and you don't have to be high to use this.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
that's what's great. And so there's so many different ways of using it. So we discuss, what's in alignment with you? What would feel better for you? Tinctures, topicals, gummies,
Yeah.
edibles, oils. There is, if you do need to inhale, there's safe ways that you can use inhalation, dry herb vaporizer. Inhalation isn't bad. I look at it as another way of getting it into the body. But there
Right.
are healthier ways to do it than not,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not against adult use cannabis, because recreational use, here we are as nurses telling people to go enjoy themselves. How
Yes.
dare we judge them how to use it? So what's really important is really discussing, what does the therapeutic use of cannabis mean? And this is really, really important, and it can help a lot of people become very clear. So the therapeutic use of cannabis is the use of cannabis products for medicinal, wellness, and healing purposes.
Mhm.
It's personal and subjective to each consumer. So it's going to be different for every person. But the objective criteria is improvement in one of the 5 health domains without negatively impacting any of the others. So
Ah.
you have the biological health
Yeah.
domain, your body, your mental, emotional,
Yeah.
spiritual, social. So if you have improvement in one of those 5 health domains without negatively impacting any of the others,
Yeah.
then you're using it therapeutically.
Yeah. So does it counteract then when someone is on some form of medication?
Well, actually, cannabinoids can make other medications work better. That's how and
Ah,
why a lot of people are able to cut their sleeping pills, their anti-anxiety medications. They're able to cut back on alcohol use. They cut back on opioids. I was able to wean off of 18 pharmaceuticals using cannabis.
yeah, that's a lot.
It's a
That's
lot.
a lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Wow.
And it was basically, the one pharmaceutical has a side effect, so they prescribe something else, and then that has a side effect. So
Yeah.
before you know it, you're stacking multiple things,
Yeah.
and then your body just doesn't know what it's doing. And the issue with, and I'm not anti-pharmaceuticals at all. I think they
Right. Yeah.
serve a purpose. They're important. But
Yes.
what a lot of patients don't understand and know is about drug nutrient depletion. This is another thing I learned in my
Yeah.
inquiry of learning about endocannabinoid system deficiency that so many patients have, is because of the pharmaceuticals that they're on are depleting their body of nutrients, and they don't even know that it's doing that. So they're not eating enough of those nutrients, or they're not supplementing. So the drug nutrient
Ah,
depletion, and then that further influences the impact on the functionality of the endocannabinoid system.
yeah. Wow. So
Yeah.
do you find then that a lot of the people that is coaching a
It
good
is. It's
the proper
coaching and
term?
consulting. Yes. So that's what it
Okay.
is. So it's
Yeah.
meeting people where they're at, doing the intake form, finding out how they want to use cannabis as medicine, and then
Yeah.
taking them on a journey as to what they would feel comfortable with. And so,
Yes.
where would you like to start?
Yes.
Generally, it depends upon, what condition that you're looking, what is your disease? What are your symptoms? And we generally start off with one or two symptoms, one or two products, and then we build from there. And then we
Hmm.
talk about complementary activities or even nutraceuticals, supplements that can enhance the cannabinoid experience, or different activities, such as breath work, deep
Right.
breathing, meditation, getting
Yes.
sunshine, grounding,
Yes.
earthing, essential oils, aromatherapy,
Yes.
chanting,
Yeah.
singing, dancing, walking, you can
Yes.
go on and on.
Yes.
So we
Yeah.
try to teach people how to
Mm.
pair health and wellness activities with the cannabinoids, and to do it mindfully,
Mm.
right? And
Hmm.
this is what
Yes.
the goal is: to take the least amount to get the therapeutic response below the threshold of being impaired.
Yeah.
Granted, if you want to get high or feel elevated, you don't need me for that. But if
Right.
you want to use cannabis as a medicine so you can get back to functioning, right?
Yeah.
Functioning and living your best life, then that's what we do, is we help teach people how to use it appropriately using different dose
Mm.
formats. We help patients to build a toolkit.
Yeah.
And the toolkit, you have breakfast, and we teach microdosing, right? Microdosing
Yes.
mimics the
Yeah.
endocannabinoid system.
Yeah.
So if the
So,
endocannabinoid system is going on and off all day long,
yeah.
it makes sense that we would need little tiny bits dripped in throughout the day.
So how do people that are overindulging in alcohol, how
Ah,
does this help them?
so how this helps them, I'm going to tell you the reason why, is because if you think about, alcohol is toxic. I hate to say it,
Yes.
never mean to alcohol shame anyone, but it is
Yeah.
toxic to
Yes.
all 11 organ systems, our immune system, and all the neurotransmitter signaling systems. The minute we ingest alcohol into our bodies,
Yeah.
our liver tries to get rid of it. We go straight to our liver, we try to
Uh,
get rid of it. Our brains are very, very intelligent, and the endocannabinoid system recognizes when we drink alcohol.
yeah.
When we drink alcohol, your brain starts to create more CB1 receptors in your brain to protect it from the alcohol, because alcohol can cause neuroinflammation. So
Yeah.
your brain starts to create cannabinoid receptors seeking the endocannabinoids to protect it from the alcohol and the neuroinflammation that it can be caused.
Wow.
So what happens if people are when people are trying to come off of alcohol,
Yeah.
CBD dosing is really, really great. A little bit of THC here and there, but too much THC, over time, you don't want to be people, you don't want people to be drinking and using cannabis at the same time.
Yeah, no.
Called crossfading.
Yes.
They can amplify the effects of each other. So
Yeah.
generally, when I'm telling people, if you want to cut back on your drinking, like over the holidays,
Yes.
we have people, get comfortable with a nice CBD dosing, maybe a 1-to-1, a 1 part CBD, 1 part THC gummy, and,
Yeah.
and experiment with that. And if you're going to go out and party and you want to go out and recreate, it's always use the cannabis first, not last. If you have the alcohol first and then you use the cannabis, that's when you can get into a lot of trouble. Whereas the cannabis can actually help decrease your need or want or even inkling to want to
Yeah.
drink.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Because you think
Interesting.
about, because people, when people are drinking, it's social, they're out, they're
Yes.
excited, they don't pay attention. And this kind of just helps people to bring it in and to become mindful and more
Mm.
um, intentional about what
Yes.
they're putting in their bodies.
Yeah. What about depression? Because that seems to be a real problem these days. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people, our world is I love our world, but right now it's a little bit of a stressful place for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So what can they do? Because people are going to come to you and they're already on antidepressants.
Yeah.
How could you help them there?
Well,
What advice do you give?
so it just depends. Okay, so if you're on antidepressants, are you looking to come off the antidepressants? Are they not working as well? So it just
Ah,
depends upon what symptoms are you still having while you're on the
yes.
antidepressants. So we work on that. So it
Yeah.
just depends. You're still having issues, difficulty sleeping. So oftentimes, anxiety. So the main reasons people come to cannabis, pain is the number one, anxiety is number two, and then sleep is generally number three. Those are the
Ah,
top three reasons why people
yeah.
come to cannabis. And so it's just really looking at each individual person and what they're looking to achieve. What goals are you looking to achieve? You have clinical depression, so
Yeah.
it's even just looking at lifestyle things too. Are
Yes.
you exercising? Motion is the lotion. So this
Yeah.
is, literally
No,
motion
for
is,
sure.
and then exercise. That runner's high that they talk about.
Yeah.
Guess what that runner's high is? Our own anandamide molecule.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
that bliss-like molecule, anandamide, ananda is Sanskrit for the word bliss. And so when Lumiere Hannis, Lumiere Hannis was actually the one that actually discovered the anandamide molecule that mimics the THC molecule. And so, it's very interesting how all of this together can help patients to have a better day. But
Yeah.
in regards to depression, I'll have to say that the top, and we've got lots of research that we've done and lots of logarithms, and there's a lot of great resources out there.
Yeah.
It's generally when people are starting with cannabis as medicine and they haven't used it before, you always want to start off with CBD. CBD works on over 70 targets in the body. It indirectly impacts the CB1 and CB2 receptors that THC plugs into. CBD can soften THC without taking away the medicinal effect, meaning that CBD can soften THC's psychoactivity. And then when people want to use a little bit of THC, we introduce that. And sometimes a full spectrum CBD product can have that. And full spectrum means it is the whole plant with a trace amount of THC. But when people are shopping at dispensaries, this is where I think people can get into trouble because it's all about the THC. Right?
Right.
So this is why we have Bloom Hemp
Oh, yes. Yes.
right there, other company.
Yeah.
So we found out, that people don't need as much THC as they think they do. And over time, and particularly with depression, too much THC over time can make depression worse. So
Hmm.
it's really
Hmm.
CBD with a little bit of THC, CBD, CBG, CBD, CBN, and these are the minor cannabinoids. The plant has so many different phytobotanical nutrients and constituents in it that have a therapeutic medicinal value to them.
Yeah.
And so we have found that patients don't need as much THC. So that's why we bought Bloom Hemp. And so it's legal,
Yeah.
hemp is legal in all 50 states. It has less than 0.3% THC, very low dose, but enough to make it work. You don't
Right.
need a lot.
Yeah. So have the doctors gotten a little further ahead since
No,
no, they
they
still
haven't.
haven't.
I hate to say it. The American Medical Association, I go to their website every day and I
Yeah.
actually check out, doctors still see cannabis as a drug of abuse. Doctors, it's
Uh,
not going to change
yeah.
for physicians or the American Medical Association until scheduling. So you have to think cannabis is still scheduled as a Schedule 1 on the federal level, even
Uh,
though we have over 40 states that are, have laws in
yes.
it. So we have, patchwork laws in different states. Some states don't have it at all. There's very few,
Yeah.
but a lot of them have hemp laws. and then there's the medical cannabis laws and then adult use laws. And each state is different. So it's
Right.
very difficult for patients. And so that's one
Ah,
of the things in the book.
yes.
Nurses shall know all the states,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
and the
Yeah.
regulations in those states to keep patients
Yeah.
safe.
And so how are the nurses the nursing industry, the 5 million nurses, are they embracing this or what are you
I think
finding?
I am finding that I think it's going to be, I think that they will embrace it more
Yeah.
once rescheduling or descheduling happens.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because it's coming. It's not going away. There is,
Yeah.
there's a botanical path and there's a pharmaceutical path. Currently,
Right.
there are pharmaceuticals, Epidiolex, Marinol. Those are synthetic versions of THC and CBD. So Marinol is synthetic THC that was
Oh,
created in the 1980s for refractory nausea and vomiting in chemotherapy individuals. And then Epidiolex was created for rare pediatric seizure disorders. Lennox-Gastaut syndrome is one of them, and Dravet syndrome. Charlotte Figi, I'm not sure if you remember the Charlotte's Web story.
yes.
Char-
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so she was the one that started this little girl, this 5-year-old was having
Yeah.
300 seizures a week, and her family picked up, moved to Colorado.
Yeah.
They met the Stanley brothers. The Stanley brothers had a strain called Hippie's Disappointment. It was a high CBD strain. They grew that, gave it to her, and she went from 300 seizures a week. Her first day of taking cannabis oil, 0 seizures. None, not one, gone.
Wow.
So, and she was taking 120 milligrams of full extract cannabis oil two times a day. And
Wow.
so they
Yeah.
ended up changing the name of Hippie's Disappointment to Charlotte's Web. And she was the one that really introduced the whole world. They did, the documentary on it,
Yeah.
Sanjay Gupta, just
Wow.
amazing just to see
Yeah.
the quality of life in these children. And that's the
Yeah.
other thing. I'm also a pediatric nurse. And so we take
Oh,
care of families as well. There's a lot of families that come
yeah.
to us, pediatric cancer, behavioral
Yeah.
disorders, a lot of kids with autism and epilepsy.
Because in my research, I think you've worked with thousands of
Thousands.
patients.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So do you have a pattern in their stories, how they get to you? Is there a bit of a pattern there
The
or?
pattern is generally it's either word of mouth or they'll
Mm,
hear me on a podcast, they'll hear me on a webinar. So, I've been podcasting since 2018 and bringing on patients that want to share their stories. A lot of times they'll find out I have a podcast and people will write in and say, I want to share my story. And so I'll invite them
ah,
on. So people will
yes.
find me that way. They'll find me. I speak at webinars. We do webinars all the time. We do clinical conversations. And people will word of mouth,
Yeah.
word of
Yeah.
mouth. People
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
find.
So just so everybody knows, we're going to have all of the links in the show notes
Yeah.
and to reach out to Sherry to find her to get her book or are your books on Amazon?
Yes. Yep. So Cannabis for Health, Become a Coach is the book that Elizabeth, my business partner, wrote.
Oh
That's on
yeah.
Amazon as
Become,
well.
become a
Yep.
coach.
Yeah. Cannabis for
Interesting.
Health, Become a Coach. Yep. This book is also on Amazon. This is Cannabis, a Handbook for Nurses, the Carrie
Ah,
Clark book. It's a textbook. It's really good. The Scope and Standards of Cannabis Nursing. That's also on Amazon.
ah,
Journal of Nursing Regulation, you can download this on our website at holisticcaring.com. We
okay.
have a 64-page document
Ah,
that's available. And I know Elizabeth was just on recently.
yeah.
She was on to share her
Yeah.
book, Wine, Women,
Beautiful
and
book.
Weed,
Yes.
Our Faith, Hope, and Love.
Yeah.
Yep. So all of these books are available. And
So,
then our companies, just to kind of
yeah,
differentiate between them. So you can see
yeah.
Holistic Caring and the Green Nurse, the little logo there. That's our podcast. That's our coaching, consulting, and educational community. So when you go to
Uh,
holisticcaring.com, that's where if you wanted an educational program. So we have educational programs for patients and providers. For nurses, they get continuing education credits. And that's where we have our coaching and consulting for patients and
oh,
providers. So for
yes.
nurses or healthcare professionals that want to
Yeah.
learn how to incorporate this into their practice, we teach
Yeah.
how to do that. We
Yeah.
also have coaching and consulting appointments for patients. The Bloom Hemp side of things on the other side, that's our CBD company. So Elizabeth and I bought that company. We hired a pharmacist. We have a pharmacist on staff. We have a free nurse line. It's organic hemp CBD, doctor and nurse formulated, Ayurvedic formulas, 18, over 30 SKUs, 8 tinctures, topicals, tinctures, gummies, do it yourself, isolate. So we
Wow.
offer a free care plan and free nurse line. So there is a free hotline. And if we don't answer the phone, the pharmacist answers the phone, and the
Yeah.
pharmacist is sleeping, people can leave a message and we call them back. So we have a
Yes.
free nurse line and we have free emailed care plans because
Oh,
we want
wow.
patients to have access to it. If people can't afford the coaching and consulting on the holistic caring side,
Yeah.
they can get a free emailed care plan on the Bloom Hemp side. So we try to offer something for everyone.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. So often people are held back financially.
Well, and
So,
we try to remove those barriers.
yeah. Yeah. That's wonderful. Wow. I am so educated now. I have just learned so much, and I've got some family members that I can't wait to get them to watch the video because they will be very interested in what you've been talking about. I'm interested in what you've been talking about, but they will be very interested in what you've been talking about, and it just makes so much sense because I find that as I've had older folks in my life, and they go on one medication, then they get on another medication, then they end up on another one, and the next thing you know, there's 6 7 pills a day that they're taking, and but to be able to shift your mind to there's an actually other ways as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
Yes. And
And then
I think,
getting back to the full circle of my mother. So
yes,
my mother heard the podcast of a nun that I took care of, got her off of fentanyl. And in the podcast, I knew that I was going to ask the nun the question. And so I asked her permission that I could ask this question. And she said, sure, go for it. And so I asked her, I said, Sister Suzanne, this question is for my mother and all the people that are out there that are plagued with stigma and think that cannabis is the devil's lettuce.
yeah,
I said this with all due respect,
yes.
what would Jesus say about all this cannabis? And she looked at me and she laughed and she held up her finger and she said, Sherry, Jesus would say, what the frig did it take you so long to use this God-given plant that I created for you? It would
Oh
be a
my God.
sin not to use it. So I took that clip and sent it to my mother. And after I sent that clip to my mother, she called me in a month and she said to me, Sherry, what's the gateway? So basically, my mother came full circle. It just took time. And so I
Yeah,
started to work with my mother and to help her. And basically, my mother's story is like the greatest gift because
yeah,
it helped me to be able to help other people that were plagued
yeah,
with stigma and to
yeah.
really focus on her and what's important to her and how she
Mhm.
wants to live her life and to go at her pace. And so we
Yes.
went very, 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 very slowly. It took her about 6 months to get the therapeutic use that she was looking for, but we did it. And we did it
Yeah.
because we did it slowly and we did it with
Yes.
intention and we did it with
Yes.
spirit involved, right? That hope,
Yes.
inspiration, growth, and
Yeah.
healing. And
Well,
so,
everybody deals with things in their own time.
yeah,
And just important that you're able to honor that
yes,
for people, for sure. Wow. It just so interesting. So interesting. Let me just ask you in closing,
sure.
if every person listening could walk away with just one message about reclaiming their health, what would you want them to hear?
Ooh, don't don't give your power away. Literally, we have these beautiful, smart, intelligent bodies that
Yes.
know how to heal when it's given the right tools.
Yes.
Don't give your health power away to someone else. Gather information, research,
Mm.
call people, get second opinions,
Yeah.
seek out all natural, holistic ways of healing, like literally,
Yeah.
and then figure out what's best for you,
Yeah.
right? Because everyone's different.
Can I ask you just one other question? Because I
Absolutely.
know I know our time is getting short here, but it just popped into my head when you were saying that, and thank you for that. But I have so many friends in menopause and perimenopause, what would this do to help them?
Oh, well, we did a study.
Oh,
This is exciting. I know, go
yay!
on and on. Bloom Hemp did a study on 100 women, the
Okay.
ages between the ages of 30 and 70. And we were looking for women that were either working in the home,
Yeah.
working full time, or working part time, but they had to be busy women. And we wanted to see how it affected their energy, their metabolism, and their focus. And so all of the women, so the majority of the women, they were in all different ages of all different, cycles of their
Yes.
menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is there's 36 symptoms of menopause, and CBD can work on all of them. So that's the bottom line of that. And we studied one of our products, Focus Tincture, and it's CBD, CBG, THCV, some functional mushrooms in it, and really powerful, beautiful tincture. And we studied 100 women over 30 days, and the results were significant. It's on the website, bloomhemp.com. I'll make sure you
Oh,
all have access to that study, but it showed that women had 2.2 hours more of productivity. They actually had 50% of women lost their appetite. 25% of the women actually lost weight doing nothing else but taking the tincture. So
wow.
really, really, yeah. So menopause, and I did an article called Balancing Your Hormone. So I'm a writer as well. So one
Yeah.
of the things, I have a Substack and I write for the Kenigma, and just wrote an article and was on a podcast too, a podcast for another, Confidently Loving Yourself, about hormonal health. And I
Ah.
talked all about menopause, hormones, the
Mm.
cycle. Yes, cannabinoids are great for women and great for menopause for sure. There's
Perfect.
36 symptoms.
Perfect.
You think about the night sweats, right?
Yeah.
THC can help cool the body. How great is that? People have night sweats, a little bit of THC and a gummy before bed. There you go. There's your little hug and nug right there, right? A little bit of
Wow.
THC can help cool the body when you're sleeping at night, decreases your
Wow.
temperature. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Sherry, thank you for that. Thank you all for being here. And we will have all of that information in the show notes for you so that you can reach out and see whether or not this can be a help for you and help you to get your life better. But I'm going to pass the video. When I get it up and running, I've got some people to tag. I'm in a few networking groups with some ladies who need to hear this, and so I'm going to be sharing it for sure. Well, thank you, Sherry, for doing this and for being so willing to be so open and positive and to share your knowledge. You're a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate it so much for you being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, everybody, we will see you next time. Take care.